I fixed his hair up. Look like freaking Willy Wonka here. What's up, guys? My name is Daniel. I draw cars, turn them into 3D prints using HueForge. Today, we are going to walk through how to use HueForge for some simple images. I didn't want to get too complicated today. Just do a little bit of a walkthrough, help you guys out. So I hope you learned something. So with this image, it's pretty detailed. There are a lot of little intricate details throughout the armor of this. We'll call it a cyborg samurai. So the first thing that you want to do, it doesn't matter what mode you're in, when you have a lot of detail in a HueForge, you want to bring the layer heights down, and you can do that up here in your general options and operations. You'll see your layer height, and we'll bring that down to a 0.04. If you're using a 0.4 nozzle, don't be afraid. You can still use a 0.04 layer height with your 0.4 nozzle. Now, if you have some details, like let's say you have a map, and you have a lot of small lettering, then in that case, you would want to bring your nozzle size down to a 0.2. But for this case, we're just going to use a 0.4 nozzle to print this HueForge out. So a 0.04 with your 0.4 nozzle, there aren't too many really tiny details, but there are enough in it where this will make a difference. And then we can also, for our base layer, we can go ahead and bring that up to a 0.24. We don't need it at a 0.16 for this image. That thickens up that first layer so that your print time comes down. It doesn't really affect it negatively in any crazy ways. So for this HueForge in standard mode, we see in this image, we see a red, another red, a darker red, and some grays. There's nothing really crazy going on here. We're only looking at roughly 3 or 4 colors. That you've got your black, your white, and then we'll just add some reds and some grays to kind of bring out the little tiny details. And in standard, super simple to do. This image shouldn't take us too much time. So let's go ahead and we'll come down here to filter, and I'll look for a red. You'll see that I have quite a few reds in my library. You might not have, as many reds as I do, but luckily there isn't too much blending here. So you should be able to, with whatever red you have, get the desired results you're looking for. For this image, you can actually right click on the image to find the closest filament. And it's saying that Pastel Watermelon from Polymaker, this is a Polyterra brand, it's like a matte color, saying that that's the closest. So we'll just go ahead and use that. So right off the bat, you can see we get the red of the red sun in the back, and then we also get the highlights of the armor here. Let's go ahead and we'll go into our image format. Right now it's in color, so we're seeing the image as it is. Let's go ahead and put it into luminance mode so we can get a better view of how HueForge is looking at this image. So this is what HueForge is looking at. This is how the image looks in HueForge's eyes. So with that in mind, you can see these darker areas and these lighter areas. Now, if I bring in, like, I've got this Polyterra Army Red. We bring this in a little bit lower. Come down with it. Let's come up with the black. Bring the black through. You can see that the darker red is matching up to this darker gray area. Let's come back over to color so we can get a better view. So that means that we're going to need some grays to come in for these areas, and we'll see how close we can get with just some basic grays. Personally, in these situations, I really like Bamboo Labs blue gray. It's a really good color for getting the shadows to pop out a little bit more. We're not going to get any crazy color matching with this. We're not going to be able to recreate the image 100% just because of the way standard mode works, but you can get a really close image just with standard mode, and you don't have to use any other crazy modes for this kind of an image. Like I said, we're not trying to recreate the image, we're just trying to get an image that looks pretty close. Let's go ahead and we'll just get a regular gray. I think we have, we'll use a poly light gray. Bring that in underneath the blue gray. Maybe come down a little bit. Actually, let's try this polychroma gray. Yeah, there we go. So we'll get a little bit more blending out of the black to gray transition. There we go. That's coming around. So here, this is pretty passable. We could probably work on the mask just a hair, but like I said, HueForge is looking at this in a certain way. So this is going to be kind of difficult to get right where we want it. That doesn't look too bad. I kind of like the way that looks. So that's how we would tackle this image in standard mode. I'll go ahead and save it the way it is. I like the way that this looks with the arms. It looks kind of cyberpunk-esque. Everything else to me looks pretty good. So we'll save this project. I'll just save it to my desktop. Standard.hfp, because I want to print these out. So now for the next mode, we'll go into, instead of standard, I just want to see if we can get any kind of good result out of color pop just with the way this image is. For people not familiar, color pop is a mode where HueForge is now going to look at the image. It's looking for a specific color. So in this case, it's going to look for the red areas, and it's also going to look for black and white areas of your image. So all of the other cyborg-esque parts of this and the swords, as well as the background. And then what it's going to do is it's going to separate those two areas, and then it'll stack those together to make one HueForge. So it's actually creating two HueForges and then stacking those meshes together to create, you know, your one HueForge. So right now, it's still using the sliders that we had from standard mode. It's kind of hard to see. Let's bring this red down. In the center in this color core, we've got this divider line here, and this is showing where it's doing that split. Like I said, we can actually increase or decrease where the split is happening in this color pop by adjusting this slider over here on the right. And then we also have this extra gap. So in the center of the core, you can see these dotted lines. This is the extra area that it's going to give you for rebasing between the two HueForges. That way you can get a smooth color transition. Like let's say that you had a higher TD red for the top area. Whenever you go from a white to a high TD red, it's going to look pink in your second HueForge. So this extra gap gives you extra room in order to, you know, print it out so that it actually looks red. It'll print out a couple extra layers of red so that it actually looks red in your HueForge. It doesn't look pink. And then we've also got our tolerance slider here. This affects, you can see as I'm increasing and decreasing it, this is actually going to affect how much the divide is going to happen between your color areas and your black and white areas. And as we drag colors into designated areas, you'll see a little bit more of what I'm talking about. So like I said, it is two HueForges stacked on each other. So to set it up, we need two blacks and two whites. So the easiest way to do that is you can actually just drag from your color sliders. You can drag that over to another color slider, each color that you're trying to do. So the reason that we need two blacks and two whites is whenever we were in standard, you saw that we started with a black and ended with a white. So black is rebasing, and we do that for both HueForges in color pop. So we'll bring this up into our second color space. Bring red up here. Bring red up here. And then we need to bring white up just a hair to the split line. And we could probably bring black down just a little bit so that we still get the details come through. Okay. So this is looking pretty good. We're still at 0.04 layer heights from the standard mode. You can see that we're getting these deep valleys in our 3D mesh. If we turn on wireframe, you can see a little bit better. Ooh. You can see a little bit better what's happening. It's going from this red area down into the first HueForge, the black and white area of this HueForge. So let's turn wireframe off. So how do we do that? This is where the tolerance slider comes in handy. You can turn tolerances up or down. And then this one, in this case, we'll want to bring tolerance up a pretty good ways. That way you can see in the sword we're still getting a little bit of red. But that way we can really get that color separation that we're looking for out of this image. Now the armor is a little bit dark here. So realistically we could probably turn off the blue-gray, and we could probably come down a little bit on the black. Just depends on what kind of effect you're going for here. Now as far as the background, you've seen that it's getting adjusted while we're adjusting our grays and while we're adjusting our blacks. That is because of the TD, or the transmission distance, of our filaments. The white filament is a 5 TD. I don't know how easy that is to see. So if we go look for another white, I've got some Polyterra cotton white to 1.5 TD, basically opaque. If we bring that over, we get the white results that we're looking for. And this looks pretty good. So this is a very basic image to start out with. Anything that's like a single color or just doesn't have basically just a single color is pretty simple to do in HueForge to get your feet wet. The more complicated stuff comes when you're dealing with like a rainbow of colors, or you're dealing with 3 different colors, such as like it's got red, green, and blue in it. To get those separations right, it's kind of a pain in the butt. So with all that being said, this is more of a walkthrough, less of a tutorial. I mean, I kind of show you how to do certain things in standard and ColourPop, but that wasn't the goal necessarily. I'm going to do more of these walkthroughs, more kind of chill videos where I just go through an image and how I would approach them in HueForge to kind of give people a better idea. Because a lot of people learn better when they just watch somebody else use the software, so I'm going to try to do that for you guys. I wanted to show off the print. I had a little bit of warpage on the side here. That was just because I may have had the air conditioner on next to the printer. That's besides the point. Anyways, there's also a lot of filament that has been hung up since the intro of this video. I'm getting the studio set up right now, and I hope that I can do some cooler videos in the future with some HueForges. But anyways, I hope you learned something. Feel free to subscribe for more of that content. Share with your friends, etc. Anybody that's struggling with HueForge, and I will see you.